We've got to get back to being a patriotic country. We've got to protect our nation. We've got to see that gate slam shut on the border. Run those that are standing there, run them back over on the Mexican side. Shut that gate up and lock it up forever.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen.
I think so too.
It's going to happen real quick.
I think you're right.
That may sound like harsh words, but I love this country, and we better start. I was in France, Normandy. We spent some time in Normandy, 3 veterans. We were invited there for a big celebration. One of the first things I saw when we drove into the yard of a home where they were going to keep us for 4 or 5 days, I saw the American flag flying right next to a French flag. And I saw it everywhere, all over that part of France. Schools, buildings, American and French flags together. And I didn't know that. I never really liked the French. I didn't like the way they fought. I didn't like the way they stood back when things were happening. I just never liked it. I had a lesson to learn. Those people loved their country. They went through battle hell. They have memorials, and they're not going to erase them. I was told that they've got memorials. They have stains on walls where they had firing squads during the First World War. I never liked that. Well, let me tell you something. If anyone goes to France and goes to Normandy and goes a few miles out of Normandy, they will see a little church chapel that is over 100 years old on a river side. It is called the Church of the Blood-Stained Pews. We didn't know what that meant, so we were invited in. It's a history. St. Patty was in it.
Really?
He went there. And we couldn't understand what this blood stain was. So she took us on a tour and showed us the benches. There are blood all over the benches, stained dry. Wow. From the Second World War. The Germans took that town over. And they fought from inside of that chapel. And we beat him and drove him out of town, but our boys got hit. And they set a hospital up inside the church, but hadn't done it. They couldn't quite get it all done. And the boys were sitting in the pews waiting to be taken care of, and there was blood all over the place. It's still there. My dear friend Kelly was with us. She knows, she's seen it. Or did you not? I don't think she did. That was some other place. We went to Ireland. I got to Ireland too.
So let's get back to what got you interested in joining the military. What got you into joining the military? How old were you when World War II started?
How old? When the war started? 16 years old.
16 years old.
16, yes. And I'll never forget what really stimulated me. It was the 8th of December, one day after Pearl Harbor. And it was cold, 8 degrees below in Detroit. And we were sitting in an old car listening to the big bands over an old radio we hooked up. And we were wrapped up in a blanket. We had caps and jackets on, but we wanted to listen to the big bands, you know. And our parents really didn't particularly like it, so here we could listen to it. And then all of a sudden the announcer comes on. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this broadcast. The President of the United States will address the nation." And on came Roosevelt, our hero. He led us through the war, and we beat the enemy. And this is what he said. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941,
a date which will live in infamy. the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
I interpret the will of Congress and of the people. We shall gain triumphant victory, so help us God. As soon as that was over with, I said to my two buddies, I said, tomorrow morning I'm skipping school. I'm going down and join the Marine Corps. And they said, you can't, you gotta be 17 years old and you have to have your mother and dad's signature. Well, I can get them both. I only got 6 months to go. I'm going down and get the paper. So I got up in the morning and I had 2 sisters and a brother. I said, don't tell anything to Mom. I'm going down to the Marine Corps office this morning. So I took off. I ran downtown. Saw a gunny sergeant in the doorway. He met me. He said, young man, what can I do for you? I said, I want to join up. He said, how old are you? I said, 16. He said, I can't take you. You got to be 17. When will you be 17? I said, in 6 months. Tell you what I'll do. If you want to do this, I will give you a piece of paper. You take that paper to your mother and father, and when you're 17, you have them sign it, bring it back, and we'll do business. You want to do that? Yes, sir. He said, go. And out the door I went, down the stairway, ran all the way home as best I could. Ran through the back door, but I forgot I skipped school. And my mother was there baking. And she said, what are you doing home? And I realized I had skipped school. And I said, Ma, I skipped school. I went down to the Marine Corps office and I got papers. And when I'm 17, I'm going to go in the Marine Corps. No, you're not. You're going to stay in school. You're not going to. I went through this already. One more. I'm not going through this again. So forget it. Throw it away. I went in the front, in the dining room, and went in the buffet, opened the drawer, tucked it under some papers, shut the drawer. 6 months later, it was May 3rd, and we had a small party. My dad was there. And I knew I had no problem with him. So I went and got that piece of paper out. I didn't have a pen. I said, Dad, sign this, will you? He said, what is it? I'm going in the Marine Corps. Give me a pen. He grabbed the pen and he signed it. He said, Vera, sign this. She said, I'm not signing that. And she went through that same thing. I went through this before. I'm not going to go again. He said, Vera, let me talk to you a minute. Now, listen to me. The boy walked out of school. He's doing odd jobs. He'll probably turn out to be a bum. And I went like this to my mother. She said, give me the paper. And she signed it. They both had to sign. I went out that door and I ran all the way downtown, saw the sergeant again.
What did he say?
He looked at that. He said, you got it? I said, I have. Here it is. He said, good. Now he said, I want to tell you something. See that door over there? Yes, sir. You're going to go in that door and meet a Navy doctor. I said, yes, sir. He said, he's going to check you over from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. You ain't never going to forget it. Do you want to do that? I said, yes, sir. He said, go. I went in, knocked on the door, and said, come on in. Walked the door, and he did. He checked me from the top of my head to the tip of my toes, and I ain't never going to forget it, and I haven't forgot it yet. That was it. That was the start. Well, he said, I'll call you in 2 weeks, and your mother and father bring you to the train station. We'll go to San Diego, and you'll go 8 weeks of boot camp.
How many 16-year-olds were signing up back then? Or 17-year-olds?
Well, a lot of them tried it, but you had to have your birth certificate, and the birth certificate doesn't lie. There it is. So they had to be 17. You hear about them sneaking in the Army. That was a lot easier, but you could never do it in the Marine Corps.
Really?
No, there's no way you're going to get away with it. They're not going to take that liability. They just didn't think they had to, you know.
Yeah.
But
a lot of people joining back then?
Huh?
A lot of people joining the armed forces?
Oh, it was, when you boot camp, in San Diego, the Marine Corps base, that